recently read an account about Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted pedophile allegedly who suicided in police custody in New York. Well, Jeffrey Epstein, according to this account, was extremely good at mirroring people. That was the expression used in the piece that I read. I forget where I read it. It's not really important. The important thing is the concept of mirroring and how important it is. You see, mirroring is the idea that a person mirrors what his interlocutor is saying or doing or thinking, or more important of all, wanting. See, a person who is mirroring you is repeating back to you your same sentences, and often as not, repeating back to you what you think in slightly different words, but in a way that you find very agreeable. And by way of mirroring, a person can wind up getting awfully close to you, to the point where you begin to trust them in a disproportionate way, in a way that is not commensurate to the kind of relationship that you have. Mirroring is actually an ability that you should develop. Yeah, and you have to understand most of all that mirroring is a form of manipulation. Mirroring, well, the person who is mirroring the other is basically reflecting back on them what they themselves think or desire or believe, and using this agreement to get them to do what they want. For instance, I say to you, you're like a Patriots fan, for instance. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. You're a fan of the Patriots, and I say, oh yeah, me too, man. And Tom Brady, the era of Tom Brady, player for this team, was the greatest ever, blah, blah. And I repeat back to you the things that you believe. And you tell me that you're a Democrat, and I say, me too. I could be a Nazi or I could be a communist. It doesn't matter. I just repeat to you that I too am a Democrat, and I too believe in whatever this political party or that political party believes in. It doesn't really matter what I say. What I'm saying is always repeating what you're saying. And a really good guy, let me phrase it, not a good guy, rather a kind of manipulative guy, but somebody who's very good at mirroring, is someone who can sort of like suss out what the object he's mirroring actually thinks before he says it. And this is fairly easy. See, and this is why we need stereotypes, and why very manipulative people depend on stereotypes. Because you see, a person, let's just say, for instance, is someone who is a member of the Democratic Party. He's a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party. Well, he's obviously going to have a set of beliefs, X, Y, Z, on a number of issues. And the odds of him being, for instance, pro-life or anti-abortion are going to be exceedingly slim. So if you're talking to somebody that you realize is a Democrat, then what are you going to say? You're going to say that you too are pro-choice and, a woman's right to choose and her body, her choice and all this stuff. Whether you believe in it or not, if you're mirroring somebody else, you're going to latch on to how they identify themselves, and from that extrapolate other things, anticipating other beliefs that they will have, and saying, yes, I agree with this. Of course, whether you agree with them or not is irrelevant. I agree with this issue, and that way the person that is being mirrored is going to think even better of you. You see what's going on. If you're mirroring somebody, you're lying to them. Because you are changing whatever beliefs that you might happen to have in order to curry favor with them. And of course, it's not just going to be with so far as your beliefs are concerned. If you're mirroring somebody, you're also going to act a certain way. You'll tend to act more submissively towards them. You're going to act more submissively towards them, more deferential towards them. And of course, the object of this mirroring and the object of this deference, well, they're going to feel great. Because we all like it when somebody else repeats what we believe. And we all most certainly like it when somebody else acts deferentially towards us. And you see the power of mirroring. And that's why you have to be incredibly careful when somebody starts saying things that you wholeheartedly agree with. Because it could be that you are being mirrored. You see? And this happens all the time with salespeople. In sales, in a sales situation, it could be that you're at a store and the salesman is trying to sell you something, or it could be that this is a business deal of some sort, your company and their company, and they're trying to work out a deal, and you get mirrored, okay? But see, you have to always know when you're being mirrored. You have to identify it. It's very important, and it's very difficult. It's a skill to suss out when you're being mirrored. And you know how you can tell when you're being mirrored? When they never disagree with you. The way I usually figure out if somebody's mirroring me, i.e. trying to manipulate me, is that I say something that goes against the stereotype of my other beliefs. I mean, you guys all know, I'm doing this for Patreon, of course, and you all know here on Patreon that I'm conservative. I'm a hardcore conservative, right? Social conservative, and fiscally, I'm more, anti-monopolistic, anti-corporatist, but that's neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is that you guys more or less know what I think. And so it is relatively easy for you to extrapolate the different ideas I might have on different issues, right? If I suspect that somebody is mirroring me, what I do is that I stake out a position that I might not really believe, but I just stake it out to see if he agrees with it or not. A position that breaks with the stereotype of my other beliefs, that might even be incongruent with my other beliefs, or even contradictory to my other beliefs. Because it's really a quality check. It is a compliance test. It's to see if the guy that I'm talking to, with whom I'm agreeing with on so many issues, I'm trying to check if he and I really agree on a lot of issues, and we just happen to be on the same wavelength, or he's mirroring me. Let me give you a simple example. You guys remember that I used to do this podcast with Dr. Benway. He's a great guy. He's a great guy, and a guy I like very much and appreciate very much, right? And we agree on a whole host of things. Movies and books and politics and this and that and the other, right? And one time we were talking about movies. We were talking about the movie Network. And he just loves it. He thinks that Network is a masterpiece, blah, blah. And I was like, no, this is a piece of shit, And as soon as I said that, he's like, what are you talking about? And he started arguing me, like vehemently arguing with me, right? He was just arguing me, and in the end, he was disappointed in me. I could sort of tell, because there are some people who find Network just the bee's knees, right? I just don't like it. I think it's just pretentious and bullshitty, and that's that. It's my opinion. But the point for this conversation that I'm having with you right now, you see, if Benway had been manipulating me and mirroring me, he would have agreed with my assessment of Network. The fact that he so vehemently disagreed, and had very good reasons to disagree, and in the end, I could sort of sense that he was kind of like, I'd come down a peg in his estimation because of my judgment on Network. That proved that he wasn't mirroring me. He's not bullshitting me. Of course, I knew this from before, but I'm just using this as a specific example so that you can understand how you can spot a guy who's mirroring you. It's very important that you figure out if somebody's mirroring you or not as early as possible. You see, all the other opinions on movies that Benway and I had, they matched completely. And some of the more novel ideas that he had about movies and books, I would consider him and say, yeah, that's pretty good. And the same with me. I would say something that he hadn't really considered and he'd be like, yeah, I agree. It was this Network issue, my opinion on the movie Network, just this one specific issue. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about, motherfucker? And that's when I knew, or like I said, I knew from before, but if I hadn't known, that's when I would have known. That's when I would have known that this guy is not mirroring me. This guy is not playing me. This guy is not trying to manipulate me. See? The fact that he disagreed so vehemently, that's how you spot a mirrorer. A guy who's trying to manipulate you. He will never disagree with you. On the contrary, he will sort of like stop and think and say, oh my God, you're a genius. He will use the fact that you're breaking out of the stereotype to inflate your ego, to praise you some more, to act even more subservient and deferential towards you. Yeah. And the tragedy, of course, is that a lot of people fall for this bullshit. Yeah. A lot of smart guys. They fall for it hook, line, and sinker. Oh, yeah. They just go for it and they don't even realize that they're being played because that's what's going on. You're being played. Okay? So it's very important that you figure this out when you're dealing with somebody. And it's very important that you learn to do this to other people that you need to convince. Because ultimately mirroring, this form of manipulation, is a way to convince people to do what you want them to do. And the process is very simple. The mirror, let's say I'm trying to mirror you, and you're saying whatever. You're saying that you're a whatever, you're a Buddhist, and I'm saying, oh yeah, Buddhism is the best religion ever. I totally believe in Buddhism. And I repeat everything that you say, and I agree with everything you say, and I anticipate what you might believe because I read you, I study you, and I anticipate what you might be thinking or might be believing, and I'll say that to you before you have a chance to say it to me, and knowing that the odds are pretty good that you'll agree with me, and that will just create an even stronger bond. Because the object being mirrored, in this case, I am mirroring you, you're the object I'm mirroring, right? Well, the object, he will feel more and more flattered that somebody else agrees with him, and if I treat you differentially, your ego will inflate. And so it will be very easy for me to say to you, what do you think of this, of X? I think that X is a good thing. What do you think? You'll agree with him. That's what you'll think. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be fucking cannibalism, but you'll agree with him. Yeah, because when somebody has mirrored you for long enough, when you feel this back and forth where what you say is reflected right back at you, when all of a sudden they say something towards you, you instinctively nod because you've been nodding all along. You see, you say that you like the Patriots, the guy who's mirroring you says he likes the Patriots too, and you nod. You say that you're a Democrat, and the guy mirroring you says that he's a Democrat too, and you nod. And then he says that he's pro-choice, and you nod. And he says that he thinks that Biden is the best thing since sliced bread, and you nod. And then he says to you, hey, don't you think X is a good thing? And you just nod, because you've been nodding the whole time. You see? You see how it works? You see how powerful it is? Mirroring is one of the best ways to manipulate somebody into getting what you want. And you got to master it. Simple as that. In life, you're going to need to mirror to make people think that you believe as they do and convince them that you and that person are on the same page. Get them nodding and nodding, and then you say, and you also think that X is a good idea, right? And they're going to nod. That's what you have to do. It's essential. It's an essential ability. It's how you make the sale. Every selling situation is ultimately a mirroring situation. A selling situation when, of course, where the buyer is not really sure. When the buyer is sure, there's nothing going on. The guy is just showing up and buying and leaving, Forget about that. I'm talking about when you're trying to convince somebody. When you're making a sale, especially to a client who's hard to convince. Now, this client could be a business client. This client could be a woman. This client could be whatever. A lot of these male feminists, for instance, that's what they're basically doing. They're mirroring women. They're assuming that by repeating all the bullshit that the feminists are saying, they'll get laid. They'll make the sale. See, that's their game plan. That's their scheme. If you start looking at it in so many interactions of people around you, you'll see that mirroring is the basis of the relationship. And you'll discover something horrifying too. You'll realize a lot of times that in a relationship where one person is being mirrored by the other, they don't even like each other. Or more correctly, the guy mirroring does not like the object that he is mirroring. He's just doing it to get what he wants. And the second he gets what he wants, he's gone. Understand what mirroring is. Understand when you are being mirrored, and learn how to mirror yourself. It's exceedingly important, and it seems so trivial. And the fact is, I'm kind of surprised that I haven't done a video about this before, but well, there you are. See? Learn to do it, and you learn it by studying people, and you learn it by practice. You got to go out there and practice, and try it out, consciously try it out with somebody over something trivial, okay? Suppose that you're with a friend and you know that you're going to be debating where to go to lunch or dinner or something like that. Well, why don't you mirror him for a little bit, for not long, 5-10 minutes tops, and then spring the idea of going to some restaurant that he might hate, but that you've mirrored him so well that he agrees. Try it. Try it as an experiment. You'll be deeply surprised, and you'll be rather unhappily surprised by how easy it is to manipulate people by just mirroring them.